On paper, an immigration judge is supposed to be neutral. Right now, more than 135 of them have been terminated since Trump took office. And if you have a case in front of one, you may genuinely have no idea whether the person deciding your future has any real background in immigration law at all. I'm walking you through exactly what happened to America's immigration courts, why the United Nations formally condemned it, and why this single story connects directly to the record number of removal orders we've been seeing lately. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand something about your own case's environment that almost nobody is explaining clearly right now. Let's start with the scale of this, because the numbers alone are worth sitting with. According to UN human rights experts, at least 135 judges have been terminated since January 2025, broken down into 113 immigration judges, 13 assistant chief immigration judges, and 9 appellate immigration judges sitting on the Board of Immigration Appeals. The entire immigration court system started with roughly 700 judges nationwide. That means close to a fifth of the entire immigration judiciary has been removed in under 2 years. Historically, only a small handful of immigration judges have ever been terminated in any given year under any administration of either party. This scale hasn't happened before in this system. Here's the part that matters most if you have a case pending right now, because this isn't only about how many judges left. It's about who left and under what circumstances. The New York Times reported that 2 judges, Rupal Patel and Nina Froese, were terminated shortly after each ruled. There were no legal grounds to deport specific individuals. Rumeisa Öztürk and Mohsen Mahdawi, both cases connected to pro-Palestinian speech on college campuses. Both judges had been appointed under the Biden administration and were still within their initial probationary period, which, under federal employment rules, made them considerably easier to remove than longer-serving judges. When a termination follows closely behind a specific ruling, that raises a real, legitimate question worth asking. Can a judge rule purely on the law and the facts in front of them, or does the outcome of a case now carry a career risk that didn't exist before? That question doesn't have a settled answer yet, but it's the one driving most of the concern around these firings. If you have a pending immigration court case, or you know someone who does, this is exactly the kind of update worth not missing. Go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're tracking this story as it develops. Now here's the human side of losing that many experienced judges at once, and it's worth understanding what that actually looked like from the inside. According to reporting from OPB, Amiena Khan, an assistant chief immigration judge who supervised 36 judges and dozens of staff at the Manhattan Immigration Court, described the moment she learned of her own termination. She was in a meeting reviewing performance evaluations when the email arrived. Within moments, 6 of the judges she personally supervised were terminated in that same wave. She later said she no longer felt she had the independence to run her courtroom the way she interpreted the law, given how abrupt and unpredictable these removals had become. She wasn't an isolated case. In total, 202 judges who were actively working in early 2025 are gone today, some terminated outright, others who chose to resign or retire early rather than continue under these conditions. 12 immigration courts have lost more than half their judges. 2 courts currently have no judges assigned at all. So, how has the government responded to a shortage this severe? By hiring quickly and at scale. According to CBS News, the Justice Department brought on 153 new permanent immigration judges during fiscal year 2026, described as the largest incoming class in the court system's history. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has framed this as restoring what he called the rule of law in the immigration system, and the administration's broader position has been that a faster, larger judiciary is necessary to work through a backlog that had been growing for years, regardless of who was on the bench. That's the stated rationale, and it's worth taking seriously on its own terms. At the same time, multiple outlets have independently reported that many of these newly hired judges have no stated prior experience practicing immigration law, and the National Association of Immigration Judges says these new hires are receiving significantly less training than judges typically received before this overhaul began. Both things can be true at once: a genuine need for more judges and genuine concerns about how quickly and with how little preparation the new ones were brought in. Now, here's where those two threads collide into something measurable. In 2026, immigration judges have approved asylum claims in fewer than 10% of cases heard, the lowest recorded rate on record. For comparison, the average asylum grant rate under the Biden administration was around 42%, and it has fallen to roughly 20% and continues dropping under the current one. That's not a minor shift. It's a fundamental change in the odds someone faces walking into court, regardless of how strong their underlying claim is. And it connects directly to something else worth remembering. Nearly 79,000 removal orders were issued in June 2026 alone. A newer, less experienced judiciary, moving through enormous and overcrowded calendars with less specialized training, is a significant part of why that number climbed so fast. This has drawn formal international attention. UN human rights experts issued a statement condemning what they explicitly called the mass arbitrary removal of immigration judges and continued politicization of immigration courts in the United States. That's an unusual statement for the UN to make about an established democracy's own domestic court system, and it reflects how far outside typical democratic practice international human rights observers view this pattern to be. Though it's worth noting the U.S. government has not treated UN commentary on its domestic courts as binding or determinative in the past, regardless of administration. It's also worth understanding the deeper problem underneath all of this, because it existed before any of these terminations began. A 2025 congressional analysis found the immigration court system needed roughly 700 additional judges just to clear its existing case backlog by 2032. Removing over 100 experienced judges from a system that was already understaffed doesn't just create a personnel gap. It adds to a backlog crisis that was already years in the making before any of this started. So, what does this actually mean if you, or someone you know, has a case anywhere in this system right now? First, understand that the judge assigned to your case may have meaningfully less experience with immigration law than judges typically had even 2 years ago. That's a documented, reported fact about the current state of these courts, not speculation. Second, given the historically low approval rates being reported, thorough legal preparation, strong documentation, and experienced legal representation matter more today than they arguably have in years. Third, understand the broader environment your case is moving through: courts that are significantly understaffed, judges reportedly operating under real institutional pressure, and calendars moving faster and more crowded than at almost any point in this system's history. None of that determines the outcome of any individual case on its own, but it shapes the conditions every case is being decided within right now. Here's the bigger picture to take from all of this. An immigration court is meant to function as a neutral, independent check, a place where the facts and the law decide someone's future, not political pressure and not a judge's own job security. removing close to a fifth of an entire judiciary in under 2 years, with at least some removals following closely behind specific rulings, and replacing experienced judges with a much larger class reportedly given far less training, doesn't just reorganize a court system. It changes the conditions that system now operates under for real people, with real cases and real outcomes riding on every decision made inside it. 135 judges is the number this story started with. What that number has actually done to the odds facing anyone walking into court today is the part worth remembering. This video is for general information and educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. It reflects reporting and figures attributed to UN human rights experts, the New York Times, OPB, CBS News, and the National Association of Immigration Judges, current as of the time of this recording, and some of these figures may continue to change. If you have a pending immigration court case, the most important step you can take is working with a licensed immigration attorney who can prepare your specific case as thoroughly as possible under current conditions. Make sure you've hit subscribe and turned on notifications, because we're going to keep tracking this story closely, including any further response and how these approval rates continue trending in the months ahead. If this helped you understand something that isn't getting nearly enough coverage, share it with someone who has a pending case or with anyone who cares about how this system is actually functioning right now. Thanks for watching.